We are ready to move on and to take the next session. I hope that you enjoyed the luncheon. We were rather rapid in eating and discussing, but I hope that you were able to find innovative and inspiring solutions to those problems discussed earlier this morning. I do have one comment on the morning discussion. I hope that we will be able to return back to it later on this afternoon. But it's one paradox in Europe, especially in Europe. We are speaking about competitiveness of Europe. That is, everyone agrees that Europe has to be competitive, but we do not accept competition. Always when we start to speak about competition, we say that only in a restricted way, or some requirements, special requirements have to be set, and so on and so on. And especially when we are speaking about education, highest education and research, I think that is what we have to be able to meet. Competition is coming, it's coming very soon. It's not coming only from the United States, but it's coming from Asia as well. And I think this is something we have to return back later on this evening, or in some other events organized later on. But now we are going to move to the next session, and the theme is social innovation. I hope that you will answer the question as well, if it's real social innovation available, or are they existing at all? Or is there only one innovation which has different dimensions, technological dimension, economic dimension, social dimension, and organizational dimension, and so on? But it's up to you if you have time to try to answer this question. But chairman of this session is going to be Jari Romanainen. Jari is the executive director of activation at Tekes, which has been mentioned several times here, founded in 1983, a key player in the Finnish innovation system, and especially funding of R&D efforts in Finland. Romanen has had responsibility for strategic planning, science, technology and innovation policy implementation and evaluation at many levels of the organization. I don't know who is doing something else there, or responsible for something else at Sitra, at Tekes. And he has both a strategic and a practical grasp of the full range of policy measures aimed at enhancing R&D and innovation. So, Mr. Romanainen, please, you can take the floor, and now we have a lot of time. Please.
For that nice introduction. We have about an hour and a half session on social innovation, and as the schedule is a bit late, I think that I will leave any further interaction to the theme at this point, and maybe we can come back to that later on during the discussion. But we have two speakers and two commentators in this session. First of all, furthest to your right is Dr. Ayao Tsuge. He currently works as a corporate advisor of Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, and over the years he has held several positions in this company, starting from 1969 up until the beginning of this year, when he started to work as a corporate advisor to this company. He was also an executive member of the Council for Science and Technology Policy of Cabinet Office of Japan from 2005 until 2007, and is currently a member of the Science Council of Japan. His field of interest include energy, environment and economy, innovation management of technology and international relations. Welcome, Dr. Tsuge. And the other speaker of the session is Dr. Timo Hämäläinen from Sitra. He has been actively involved with innovation, competitiveness and industrial policy research and practice since early 1990s. In the mid-90s, he worked for the Ministry of Trade and Industry, where he had a key role in the formulation of the Finnish government's new industrial policy strategy. Since joining Sitra in 1998, Dr. Hämäläinen has been responsible for management of policy-oriented research on the new economy, national innovation system, and social innovations, as well as Sitra's practical social innovation projects. He has also worked actively with new forums developing the Finnish innovation system and business know-how. We also have two commentators for this session. First of all, Mr. Esko Olavi-Seppälä, Secretary General from the Finnish Science and Technology Policy Council, and Ambassador of Finland to India, Mr. Asko Numminen. And so, without any further delay, we can start with the session. Please, Dr. Tsuge.
That's okay. So, thank you, Dr. Roma Nainen. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to be able to visit Finland again after 16 years interval. As a former member of the Council for Science and Technology Policy, Cabinet Office Japan, I was engaged in establishing the new basic plan of science and technology policy and also launching the comprehensive strategy for innovation. So I know that Finland made remarkable, successful social innovation in the last decade. Japan is now starting a new challenge to the social innovation in the 21st century. I want to share with all of you the vision and the strategy how to enhance the innovation capability, focusing on the issue of how to make the bridge between the knowledge creation and the socio-economic innovation. So the social innovation we should pursue in the 21st century can be categorized to the national innovation system, country and regional, and the global sustainable innovation ecosystem. Issue one is the balance between competition and collaboration between the countries. Issue two is to nurture the human resources for the global innovation. It is a common issue of the world to nurture the young generation who should contribute to create the global innovation ecosystem. Based upon this context of innovation, Japan has to challenge to the following two categories of innovation. First is the national and regional innovation to keep the sustainable development under the predicted declining population and the rapid aging in the 21st century. Second is to contribute to the global sustainable innovation ecosystem. That means to contribute to the sustainable development of the world, especially Asia and Africa, with the technologies to solve the global scale crisis, such as so-called 3E issues, as the environment, energy, and economy, and the issues of the food and water under the burst of the world population. Science and technology innovation is the key to create the social innovation. Based on this vision, Japan's new science and technology policy has been launched for both the national innovation and the global sustainable innovation ecosystem. The basic stance of the new science and technology policy is first that science and technology should be supported by the public and return benefit to the society and to the world from the viewpoint of both national innovation and the global sustainable innovation ecosystem. Secondly, is fostering human resources and creating competitive research environment. This shows the new science and technology policy with the 6 major targets of the socio-economic innovation. Under the Vision 1 to the left side, to create the human wisdom, Goal 1 is quantum jump in knowledge, discovery, and creation. And Goal 2 is the breakthrough in advanced science and technology. Under the Vision 2, the center column, to maximize the national potential, Goal 3 is sustainable development with the harmony between economic growth and the environment protection. Goal 4 is Innovator Japan with the strength in the economy and industry. Under the Vision 3, the right side, to protect nations' health and security, Goal 5 is the lifetime good health of the people, and Goal 6 is the security of the nation. Total amount of the investment to the new science technology plan shall be 25 trillion yen, that is about 118 billion pounds for the 5 years from 2006 through 2010, ensuring steady growth of the investment and maximizing output by setting outcome target for each research and development program. So to maximize the investment outcome, strategic priority setting was done with the condition of steady promotion of the basic research. Life science, information technology, environmental science technology, and nanotechnology and materials are the 4 prioritized promotion area. And energy science and technology, monozukuri technology, this is a Japanese, have the wider paradigm than the simple word manufacturing. So we use monozukuri technology. And the social infrastructure and also frontiers such as space and ocean development are other 4 promotion areas. So allocating about one third of the total budget to the basic research, about 1/2 of the total budget is allocated to the policy mission-oriented R&D, with 273 important R&D themes selected and 62 strategic science and technology priorities. The issue from the viewpoint of the social innovation, the topics of this afternoon, is the innovation capability. In another word, the issue is how to strengthen the interactive bridge between the knowledge creation by the basic research and the socio-economic value creation through the target-driven R&D. In this view graph, the issue is illustrated by the dotted arrows connecting the 3 circles: basic research and policy missions oriented R&D and socio-economic value. As you know, the investment to the science and technology should be diluted if the dotted arrows are weak and do not work as the bridge interconnecting between the knowledge creation and the socio-economic value. So this view graph is rather busy, but does illustrate the nonlinear, stochastic, and even organic process of the combination between the knowledge creation, which is the bottom line illustrated as research area A and research area B, and the socio-economic value creation that's shown at the top as the product or services. So there should be several stages between the pure academic knowledge creation at the bottom and the objective basic research and the application R&D and to the market commercial value creation at the top. We know that the innovation process is not so straightforward. Sometimes merging with other key technologies and unexpected derivative technologies create vital chance of innovation. Fusion of the different area of the science and technology sometimes creates the disruptive innovation. The flexible, interactive daily activities between the marketplace and the basic research place should enhance the probability of the re-evaluation of the science and technology evolution and the chance to go back to the science that may create new revolution and the technologies. As is shown at the right side, this view graph, there are several keys to make this innovation process work. The interactive and fusion places commonly shared between the academia and industries should play the important role. The Council of Science and Technology Policy of Japan launched a new scheme named the Innovation Center for Advanced Transdisciplinary Areas, such as robotics, nanoelectronics, fusion between medical science and information technologies, and so on. Another challenge to build up the interactive and fusion place is so-called inter-ministry collaboration schemes. So each ministry has its own mission to create specific socio-economic value, but the knowledge and the related basic research can be commonly shared. Under this inter-ministry collaboration scheme, bilateral and organic cooperation are realized, forming the so-called innovation pipeline network. Deregulation and industry policy should also be important to make this innovation pipeline network actually work. So when we talk about the innovation pipeline network, nothing is more important than nurturing human resources. So let me move to nurturing human resources for the social innovation. Innovation can be illustrated as a huge pyramid shown at the left side. The required spectrum of the science and technology is getting wider and wider, and the height of the pyramid, that is the required level of the technologies, are also getting higher and higher to create the social innovation. The required human resources to build up such a huge pyramid of innovation are shown at the right side, this view graph. It goes without saying that the type D human resources who are talented to discover and invent the differentiator in science and technology are indispensable to the disruptive innovation. Also, type E human resources are very important to create so-called enabler technologies. When we talk about the social innovation, we realize the importance of nurturing the human resources, having knowledge and the basic science technologies, and even knowledge in the liberal arts. I named this type of the human resources as type B. The very important capability of the human resources in creating the social innovation we tend to forget when we talk about the science and technology policy is type sigma human resources, which is shown below. That is the human resources who are capable to integrate the innovation structure horizontally and vertically, interconnecting required disciplines. It is a common essential agenda of all of us how to nurture this type sigma human resources. Based on this vision of the innovation and the human resources, I participated in constructing the new comprehensive strategy for creating innovation by the Council for Science and Technology Policy, Cabinet Office of Japan. This is the total structure of the strategy, bridging between basic research, applied research and development, and the market, with strengthening the network of knowledge creation and the value creation, resulting in the new socio-economic value. The strategy one is to expand the source of innovation by establishing the world-class, top-class research center with the participation of the excellent researchers from all over the world. Strategy 2 is to strengthen the mechanism to yield socio-economic results from the seeds of the innovation by implementing and accelerating the real collaboration between industry, academia, and the government. Current example is the building of the new innovation centers in advanced transdisciplinary areas such as the future robotics and next generation nanoelectronics and so on. Seamless funding seamless funding in every stage to the promising researchers is very important. Strategy 3 is to strengthen the social measure to realize innovation such as promoting the field use of new technologies and international standardization. Strategy 4 is to promote the system reform for the enhancement of social innovation by eliminating the structural impediment in the social system and even the system of the national universities, such as the reforming the immigration control system, the globalization of the national universities, and so on. Strategy 5 is the most important, that is to strengthen the human resource development. First is to strengthen the young innovator human resources through the activities of each strategies I mentioned. Second is to strengthen the science and mathematics education in the elementary and middle school. Third is to enhance the education and the basic knowledge and the liberal arts in the school and the universities. Fourth is the building up the skill of the engineers and technicians who played a vital role in the realization of the social innovation. So the new comprehensive strategy for the sustainable innovation was incorporated into the economic growth initiative and economic fiscal policy of the blueprint of Japan, targeting both enhancement of national innovation system for also the collaboration and contribution to the global sustainable innovation ecosystem. Let me conclude my presentation by highlighting first, the global sustainable innovation ecosystem is the common issue of the world. Secondly, science and technology innovation is indispensable together with education and building up the human resources. Thirdly, integration of education, research, and innovation is the key agenda for the social innovation. Finally, Japan is ready to contribute to the global sustainable innovation ecosystem with the viewpoint of the global cooperation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tsuke, and especially keeping to the time schedule, as we are rather pressed in time. I think we will move to the next presentation immediately, since we have some time reserved specifically for discussion later on. So, Dr. Hämäläinen, please.
Good afternoon. We know that social innovations have recently come on the agenda of innovation practitioners and policymakers around the world. But why do we have this new word amongst us, and why do we discuss social innovation right now? We didn't have such discussion 10 years ago or back in the 1980s. I think the reason for this new discussion is related to the historical transformation of the world economy that we are living through now. We have been discussing the technological and organizational and economic challenges that this new transformation poses on us for quite some time, maybe 15, even 20 years. But only recently have we realized that the new challenges of this transformation come from the socio-institutional side of our societies rather than from the technological and economic subsystems of our societies. We do realize that these technological and economic challenges are large, but I would argue that these socio-institutional adjustment challenges are at least as large or even bigger. And they have to do with our shared worldviews, our values and norms, our laws and regulations, our policies, and public sector organization. Those of you who are familiar with economic history, and particularly the classical economists, would see some resemblance or signs in this graph from Karl Marx, and that is true. He was one of the first researchers to think about these major transformations, and despite his problems in forecasting the future of the world economy and industrial societies, he had some long-lasting thoughts about this transformation that are still valid. He talked about the changes in the material forces of production that force societies and economies to change their productive relations, i.e. their organizational arrangements, and finally these twin forces of changing technologies and organizational arrangements create new challenges for the institutional setup in our societies and even our world views. And I would argue that at this point he was right, and still is. He was looking at the second, or actually the first industrial revolution and its consequences. We are today living the third industrial revolution, and our big challenge is to understand these socio-institutional challenges and to try and develop a new paradigm of thinking for this new environment. Now, I've spent a lot of time studying national competitiveness of industrial societies, and I took a long-term perspective into this issue through the framework of the long economic and social cycles. And from that perspective, it seems that the greatest challenge for our societies from the perspective of national competitiveness and economic growth is our ability to adjust our societies in a systemic way to the challenges posed by the changing environment around us, and also the new emerging challenges of our increasingly affluent societies. This transformation of the world economy opens up new opportunities for agile and adaptive societies to push to the front of socioeconomic development. However, societies, if you take a long historical perspective to these transformations, societies who are not able to adjust or will only adjust in a partial way will face increasing problems. You might take the example of the United Kingdom or Britain in the second industrial revolution. It had the most successful socioeconomic model for the 19th century, but was not quite able to adapt to the second industrial revolution that emphasized mass production, mass consumption, and gradually started to lose ground in terms of economic growth. Now we are again in a transformation like that, and the key challenge is for our societies to try and adapt to this new situation and also use the opportunities offered by it. The reason why this adjustment capacity is so important is that from the economic perspective, the societies that can adjust in a systemic way to the changing environment can reach a regime or situation where the different parts of the system or the society complement each other and are a good match and in a synergetic relationship with the changing technological and economic environment, which creates a situation of increasing returns, increasing productivity, and rapid economic growth. On the other hand, if we adjust slowly, or a society adjusts slowly or only partially, it might get stuck to a decreasing returns regime of slow productivity growth and slow economic growth. Now, in this new situation of a changing world economy and rapidly changing technologies, the frontier of socioeconomic development begins to move very fast, and it emphasizes the importance of trying to be at or close to this frontier of development, and it's increasingly difficult to catch up with the leading societies if you delay your adjustment. The catching up challenge, so to say, it's much more difficult than in a mature technological and economic paradigm like the one that we had in the world economy in the post-Second World War era. At that stage, the frontier of technological and economic development was rather slow, and it was easier for the catching up countries to catch up and grow faster than the leading countries. The new resources and technologies and organizational innovations also emerge in a non-standardized form initially. Hence, they are difficult to transfer across communities and across national borders. And if one achieves a well or builds a well-functioning system or society that has these increasing returns, they are rather difficult to copy from abroad. So these kinds of systemic innovations can yield you a sustainable advantage. Now here's a table from the last century, basically describing a situation after the second industrial revolution. As you know, the United States was the leading country in terms of economic growth during the past century. And as you can see, after the second industrial revolution in the late 19th century, the United States economy was forging ahead and leaving other industrial countries behind. So in the first part of the 20th century, the relative growth rates of most of the industrialized countries was smaller, or the yes, it was smaller than that of the United States. However, in the second part of the 20th century, after the Second World War, most of the industrialized countries were catching up with the United States growth rates. And I would argue that we might be entering into this first column situation again, where the leading countries may be forging ahead and leaving others behind. So it would be good for Finland, Japan, and other industrial countries to try to be in this frontier of socioeconomic development. Now, this graph describes the changes in national competitiveness in different OECD countries from the early 1980s. The point here is that the situation of different countries in these competitiveness tables changes quite rapidly. You can see that Japan and Germany, for example, were at the top of the competitiveness table in the early 1990s or late 1980s, but they have slid back and gone downhill since that, and now are at the much lower ranking than in the late 1980s. And as you know, this decline in competitiveness has also been reflected in their economic growth rates. So it's very important that you try to maintain and improve your competitiveness despite the writings of some economists like Paul Krugman. As you can see, Finland experienced a steady decline of competitiveness in the 1980s, but then something strange happened during the severe economic crisis that we had in the early 1990s, and Finland jumped to the top of the competitiveness table, where we have stayed ever since. I would argue that the severe crisis that we had in the early 1990s allowed us to make some quite drastic changes in private sector organizations and also in public sector organizations that propelled us to the top in these tables and increased our productivity quite considerably. So there is a silver lining to our crisis in the early 1990s, as we know. Now, if this systemic adjustment capacity is so important for economic and social performance in the long term, and particularly in transformations like we're living today, why do then some societies, sectors, regions and organizations get stuck with their old structures while others can change? If this is the key question, then we have to understand the social innovation and structural change processes much better than we understand them today. Only through deep understanding of these social innovation and structural change processes can we come up with good policies to facilitate such processes, which then end up in better economic and social performance. These were the questions that we had in mind once we set up a project to study the social innovation, structural change processes in Sitra in the early parts of this decade. The results are already at hand, and I will be talking about them now. Now, if you have a stable environment in the society, we really haven't had one in Finland because we have developed so quickly. We're an agricultural country after the Second World War and rapidly industrialized and then became a service economy and now a knowledge economy. But if you take some bigger industrial economy that has evolved during a longer period of time, say France or Great Britain, there has been some more stable periods of social and economic development. And during those more stable periods, there's not so much institutional change or structural change in the society. The change that you have is more incremental. If the behavior of individuals and organizations produce rather good results, there is no reason in the minds of decision makers to change the structures. Rather than they continue doing as they have done before, the established worldviews strengthen. The theories that underlie these worldviews, they also become more polished up and better. And the regimes become, policy regimes and regulatory frameworks become increasingly institutionalized and rigid and so forth. So this single loop continues as long as there are no major problems in the system. However, once the environment starts to change more rapidly, well, I'll take this point soon, but I'll just emphasize some of the inertia that gets built into the system during these evolutionary, rather nice periods. Well, first of all, you have mental inertia. People psychologically do not like change. They like what some people have called a stable state. So if there's no major reason for change or no major stress, people don't like change. They want to have routinized behavior because that makes life easy. Second, once you have this stable situation or evolutionary development, you tend to build economic inertia in the system because vested interests become stronger and stronger. And they tend to resist major changes. There will also be social inertia because the social networks become more and more developed, and if you are in a strong position or you are in a well-established network, even if you would like to change the behavior of your organization or your unit, you might think twice before you change it if it has negative influence on the other partners in the network. You don't want to rock the boat. And this is at least a challenge in Finland, and it might even be a challenge in Japan and some other countries where you have these close networks. And finally, even if everyone wanted to change the system, complex systems are difficult to change. And it might be difficult to change the many parts of a complex system in a coordinated way that would provide the benefits compared to the old status quo. So there are many types of inertia in the system that build up over time in evolutionary environments. Now, here we have the second order change process, which is a situation where you start to have more drastic change. And the system or the society or the region or the sector of business or the organization only jumps into this second order more radical change process if there's increasing stress in the system, which cannot anymore be taken with the old ways of doing things. A good example is the Finnish or the crisis in Finland in the early 1990s. That pushed Finland into this second order change process, through which we got major changes in both our business sector and in the public sector. So to overcome the inertia, you need increasing stress in the system that can come from the environment, technological changes, other environmental changes, or from within the system as increasing problems in your socioeconomic model. Now, I will not go into the details of this table. The argument here is that the rapid change in Finland in the 1990s was facilitated by a new worldview, or new, what we call mental paradigm, that emphasized market mechanism, open and competitive national economy, high technology, knowledge as a basis of economic growth, customer orientation in the public sector, and so forth. And this new paradigm of thinking emerged in the 1980s in Finland, but did not have any practical implications until the crisis of the early 1990s. But once the Finnish economy hit the wall in the early 1990s, the decision makers were searching for a new way of thinking, new solutions. And there was this alternative way of thinking that the intellectuals had developed in the 1980s, which was quickly embraced in the early 1990s and led to major decisions which are depicted here on the last column. You can see that these mental changes of the late 1980s, early 1990s led to major structural changes in practice. So the argument here is that without collective mental changes, you will not have major structural changes, not at least sustainable changes. You can force change, but in order for the change to be sustainable, you need collective mental rethinking and mental change. And finally, here are some of the policy areas where you can try to make a difference in facilitating socioeconomic change and social innovations. I will not go through these either, but I would just emphasize that many of these have to do with the collective worldview that a particular community, be they Finns or Japanese or members of a particular organization, have. And in these different policy fields, you can try to create new challenges or contradictions to the current thinking, which allow people to question their established premises and allow them to start thinking about new ways of doing things. Finally, there remains one important question. If you're able to build a flexible socioeconomic system, society, sector, or an organization that can change when there is a need and can change in a proactive way without a crisis, you still have the question that what should be the direction of change? And I think this is one of the biggest questions that we are facing now in industrialized countries. We're trying to build this adjustment capacity on the one hand, but we should be thinking also the direction of change. Where do we want to go if we can change? And I haven't seen a lot of discussion about these future socioeconomic models, at least not in Finland, but I think it's quite scarce also in other countries. And I think if we can build this adjustment capacity, we will also have to build some kind of vision of a sustainable society that is economically competitive, is socially human, and is ecologically sustainable. Without such a vision, we will not know where to go with this adjustment capacity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hämäläinen. And now we will hear the commentators at this point. So, Mr. Esko Seppälä.
Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, it's very easy to commentate these narrow-minded short stories we have just heard, I'm sure. To start with, I'd like to present to you the policy framework we have used in Finland since 1990 for 16, 17 years now. It's the broad description of a innovation system consisting of three elements or three parts. Of course, all the producers of new knowledge and know-how belong to the game, and so belong all the users of economic of new knowledge and know-how in order to have absorptive capacity in relation to economic and social needs. The third element in this playground consists of all the interaction mechanisms between the two. So this is something which is sort of broadest definition of an innovation system, and from the experience of the Science and Technology Policy Council of Finland, I dare say that it has proved to be very useful in policy formulation activities. 5 years ago, in 2002, the Council defined what it called the national strategy in the following way. National strategy is to have a balanced societal and economic development in the future, also in the future. And the paradigm shift, which is included in this picture, just relates to the second part of this picture. In addition to technological innovations, which were in the focus, especially in mid and late 90s in our country, social innovations have been included in the picture, and they are supposed to be there in an integrated way, so that social and technological innovation activities are to be developed in an integrated way, hand in hand, together. The role of the political decision maker is, of course, to take care that macro level developments are going to the right direction, whatever it is. Timo asked that just 2 minutes ago. What is the direction? But in addition to that, prerequisites for innovation ought to be in good shape, and there ought to be as many creative innovation environments as possible, and also taking care of these elements. The lowest box in the picture is the role and responsibility of political decision makers. Now, comparing with these two pictures in mind, Japan and Finnish developments, I can say that after the presentation of Professor Tsuge, that Finland could be Japan, but it is not. Japan is 20 times Finland, and as such, Japan is a genuinely global player, which Finland no doubt is not. Still, we have many things in common in policy thinking. Horizontal innovation policy is emphasized in both countries. Very strong emphasis on development of human resources. In our case, examples are high quality basic education. We have to bear this OECD's PISA studies in mind. Diversity and continuity of basic research are considered very important. And then this interest in having and creating world top class research centers as industry, academy and government partnership activities. In Finland they are called SHOCs, even in the political program of the new government. That means strategic centers of excellence in science, technology and innovation. Limited non-profit companies created together by leading companies, research, private and public research organizations and universities in selected fields of study and economy. As to regional innovation, it's more and more based on knowledge and know-how and clever utilizing of these. In regions and in Finland we have a special Oecd program, Center of Expertise program, which is the top program of regionally driven development activities. Technology centers, universities, polytechnics and other players in regions are in charge of that program. And then, of course, seamless funding to promising researchers, creating of real research careers is a vital element of development of human resources. Then, still, eliminating structural impediments, and this relates also to Timo Hämäläinen's presentation here, and then integration of education, research and innovation, the magic triangle also in the European Union. That is the key agenda for the social innovation. So that's what I thought to say concerning the first presentation. Thank you very much for that, Professor Tsuge. Then, of course, all our countries are facing many universal challenges when we speak of science, technology and innovation. Some of these are listed here in the picture. Globalization, of course, of economy and technology, new opportunities, threats and challenges due to globalization, constant change of business and social structures, need to improve innovation dynamics due to competitive factors, and the S&T enterprise itself is also changing. Interdisciplinary and intertechnological projects and programs are increasing, teamwork, various kinds of networking partnerships, and so on. Bearing these challenges in mind, I now finally come to the presentation of Timo, and I take up only one point of this big sweep you presented here, and that's the systemic adjustment capacity. Do we have enough of it? Timo's answer was that we do not today, at least, have enough of systemic adjustment capacity at the macro level, at least. Why is it important? It's important for the balanced and sustainable societal and economic development based on social and technological innovation. In order to have this national strategy fulfilled or followed even, we have to have a certain amount of systemic adjustment capacity in the society. As Timo said, that crisis helps. A deep economic crisis helps, but it is not recommended. I do not recommend that. We ought to have better solutions, so that agents of change are needed for mental and structural change. We do not need any architects of human mind. That is a notorious expression from earlier decades, but something we ought to have. And my answer to this discussion, to this forum, is foresight. Extensive, persistent foresight activities, and this is very familiar to Timo because he's director of Sitra's National Foresight Network. And we both, I think, know that it's vital to identify possible development paths towards unknown futures. And that also helps to have this vision for sustainable development of the society and the economy. The last line, I could ask the audience, what is that? A responsible, caring and rewarding Finland. Do you know? Yes, it's the title of the political program of the new government of Finland. That is a good start. The slogan is very promising. We'll see what's going to happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now for the second commentator.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Tsuke and Dr. Hämäläinen for their very interesting presentations, and I'd like to thank Mr. Seppälä for his comments. And thank you for the invitation to comment on social innovation. I must, at the outset, admit that this concept is not very familiar to me, and as we heard, it is a new concept which has been invented in the very active debate on innovation recently. But I have studied some of the literature, and I understand it to mean that social innovations mean such structural changes in the society that lead to stronger economic and social performance capacity. This is a definition by Professor Heiskala. Social innovations change social realities and they create new forms of businesses, behavior and organizations. And social innovations are different from the technical innovations. They cannot be patented, but they are part of public good. However, as Dr. Tsuke concluded, science and technology innovation is the key to create the social innovation, and social innovations and technical innovations are often interrelated and mutually reinforcing. Mr. Seppälä commented in detail the presentations. I don't even attempt to do that. I think my best contribution in this discussion would be that I will make some general remarks from the Indian point of view. I have been posted to India for 1.5 years now. It is a very short time in India, indeed, and one has to be humble when speaking about India. This country of more than 1 billion people is so diverse and so multifaceted that one truth is often contradicted in the next sentence by another truth. And India is a country where a modern knowledge-based economy operates close to the very traditional way of production and living. Today, India is globally the biggest center of information technology services. About 65% of these services have already been outsourced to India, and it's big IT companies like Wipro, Infosys, Tata Consulting Services, and so on. employ each about 60,000 people and recruit tens of thousands more personnel annually. So figures are really impressive, and they really make us think of India and other emerging markets and our own capacity to compete. And I return this theme later on. At the same time, we know that 70% of the population live in the countryside, and 60%, more than 600 million people, have their livelihood from agriculture still, and almost 300 million people live by $1 a day. So it is really a country of huge contradictions. Dr. Tsuke mentioned that one of the main challenges is the task of keeping the sustainable development under predicted declining population and rapid aging in the 21st century. And this is a challenge which is common to many other countries in the world. We know very well that population is aging in Japan, in China, in Europe, Northern America, and there will be less and less young people entering the labor markets and providing intellectual capacity and their human resources for these economies. But India is a different case. 60%, more than 600 million of the population are under 25 years. Every year, 13 million young people will enter the labor market, and this will continue for the next coming decades. Annually, 3 million young Indians graduate from the universities of the country, and 400,000 have technical degree. This is a huge resource to India and to its innovative capacity. Naturally, the employment of these young generations is also at the same time a major challenge for the country and for the Indian education system. Today, the level of education in Indian universities and other higher education institutions is quite uneven. Some institutions are globally competitive, but only 24% qualify for the Indian IT companies of the graduates, and very often the private companies have to train a big part of the working force by themselves. Naturally, the success of the IT sector in India has brought about important social changes in the country. It has changed social realities in the cities like Bangalore, Pune, Hyderabad, Chennai, and it has changed social relations in the Indian families who still have strong traditional patterns of behavior. And often, even today, a highly paid IT executive who has been educated in the United States and has global mindsetting to the business will rather have a marriage arranged by his parents as his forefathers have done for centuries. It's just an example how these traditional social patterns live together with modern India, which is emerging. In relation to the Indian national economy, the size of IT sector is still very small. Exports of software services count about 2% of the total production, and it might now employ about 3 million people. So still, in relation to the overall economy, IT sector is rather limited in size, but the sector has given India increased self-confidence, and it is working as an important catalyst for social change and social innovation, and similar important changes are taking place in other areas like biotechnology, pharmaceuticals, mobile communication, and so on. And this social change is taking place rapidly. India's biggest challenge is poverty, which is very tangible in the rural areas. And a key question for social's future, for India's future, is can technological innovations bring about social change and social innovation in the poor countryside? How can poverty be eliminated by technical and social innovations in the rural India? And there are good examples of successes. ICT is coming to the rural India, and a number of projects are implemented by using modern information technology in order to improve the living conditions of the farmers. Mobile technology in particular has given new tools to farmers to sell their products directly to the final customers without middlemen at the market price. And this technology, mobile communication technology, can also be used even by those who cannot read and write. And there are millions and millions of those people in India who cannot read and write. There's one very interesting example as Internet solutions are concerned, the so-called e-Shopal initiative, and this is among the best success stories in using Internet for the benefit of small farmers. This program, initiated by one of the leading private companies in India, IISS, places computers with internet access in rural farming villages, and these electronic gathering places serve as both social meeting points for exchange of information and as e-commerce hubs, giving the farmers real-time information on the prices and creating a direct marketing channel by eliminating wasteful intermediation by middlemen, which is a very typical structure and problem of countryside market structure, that these middlemen, which act in a very regulated market environment, are there to take large part of the profit. But there's still a long way to go. 90% of soybean is sold by farmers through these old-fashioned structures. I understand that I have to conclude soon, and I will do so. But I like to make one final point, and in fact it is a kind of response to the very interesting question that Ambassador Yulin raised in the morning session about the innovative environment and about the ability of open societies to produce innovations. And here again, India is strong in comparison with some other neighboring countries, because India is democratic, it is free, where ideas can be produced without any limitations. It is a country where freedom of expression prevails. It is a very strong point for India when it moves further ahead to more knowledge-based economy. And final point, what is our strategy, Finland's right strategy with India? I think another emerging big markets, I think we must have double strategy. Firstly, be 2 or even more steps ahead in these specific niche areas where we are good technologically, and mobile telecommunication is, of course, the best example. But this is not enough. We need partnerships with these big giants who have the volume, and we have to be their partners in order to benefit from the huge volume of human resources capacity that they pose. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And now we move into the part of the questions for the presenters. First of all, if I may start with a couple of questions. One particular point that I was not getting very clear from both of the presentations was actually as I see it, is the increasing role of users in innovation. Would you be willing to comment that in any way?
That is the rather continuous issue from the morning session. May I understand like that? Okay.
Yes.
The issue is, yes, it is true, absolutely true that now the innovation is changing to the user-oriented. But another issue is since the advancement of science and technology is getting higher and higher, it's beyond the understanding capability of the users. So how to bridge between the innovation, science and technology innovation, and user-oriented innovation? That is I would say, this is the education to our people, including me, is the key to solve the issue.
I think you could split this question into two with regard to public sector. If you take the public services, healthcare, daycare for the children and so forth, you could, I think, take a similar approach as the one that has been proposed for the private sector firms, that you should engage the users of these services more into the development processes of these services, and you would like to understand the context and the preferences of the users better in providing those services. Of course, you also need special expertise of the healthcare professions and so forth, but at least in Finland, and I think in many other countries, we haven't utilized the information and knowledge of the users in public sector so much. The other thing is that public sector also creates framework conditions for human beings and firms to operate within, like regulation and policies. And I'm not sure how you can, well, I'm sure that you need the input of the citizens while you develop new policies. But it's not quite the same to develop new services that will be directly used by the citizens than it is to develop, let's say, intellectual property rights, because they are not directly used by citizens, but they affect their behavior and they affect the behavior of firms. So it's a little bit different challenge, but even there, I think you could utilize the information from the preferences of the citizens much better than we are able to do today.
Yeah, because the sort of background for the question was really the going back to the definition of a social innovation. If it's an innovation in a social context, and it's supposed to change the mental mindset, or is supposed to change the way societies work, it kind of brings to mind the idea that you should bring the innovation and the innovation process into the society, and not treat it as a separate from the society. If you understand why I sort of was driving with my question. There's also the term social innovation in itself, if you think about it, might be a new term, but there was an older term that has been used for at least part of the same discussion was revolving around something called social shaping of technologies earlier, which was really touching the same or similar kind of topic of understanding that how different technologies or different ideas that were brought into the users and into the context of use were actually being shaped by the societies. They both initiated a change in the way societies work, and also they in turn reshaped the technology, the way it was used and the way it was transformed into products and processes. So that's an aspect I was kind of missing from the discussion earlier. Another point that was made earlier or in the beginning of the session by President Aho was really the question about, should we be talking about, is social innovation just a specific type of innovation, or should we rather approach the issue of social innovation that it is a characteristic of innovation, the social dimension is just a characteristic of innovation? Do you have some thoughts about that?
It's difficult to understand the characteristic innovation.
Would you say that every innovation, whether it's originating from a scientific discovery or a technological breakthrough, it has a social dimension? And when we're talking about social innovation, we should rather be talking about the social dimension of all innovations, rather than looking at specific type of innovation, which is something that is non-technological or not technological or not anything else, but it's a specific type of innovation which is just social innovation.
I think there's a special value in discussing social innovations and emphasizing some features that are unique to them. Although I agree that all innovations involve social dimension. I think if we start to emphasize the fact that all innovations involve a social dimension, we might lose this focus that we have gained on social innovations, and we might say that, well, okay, since all innovations involve a social dimension, we can neglect it, and the baby goes with the bathwater. So I think at this point, at least in Finland, where we have discussed innovations merely from technological and economic perspective, it's useful to emphasize the social innovations, which I think the ones at least which I consider social innovations, they involve much more of this social and organizational and institutional dimension than some of the more traditional type of innovations, which begin with changing technology and then these technologies being utilized in products and then find their way to everyday practices of people. So I think there are these different dimensions, and different types of innovations have more of one dimension than other, and so you can differentiate between different types of innovations.
Okay. One further question for Dr. Tsuge. One of the things that you described in your presentation was the global sustainable innovation ecosystem. Do you have any thoughts, or care to sort of elaborate a little bit on about the level of governance, the international governance that we have in place for creating this sustainable innovation ecosystem? Do you have any thoughts about that? Is it sufficient at the moment? Do we have the international bodies or institutions or governance processes or whatever to run this, or is there something that we should be stronger in that? And
yes, my opinion is at this moment now the globe, the Earth is becoming smaller and smaller compared to our human beings' activities. Okay, so for instance, the global warming issue is a big issue, and I would say Kyoto Protocol is not enough to solve the global warming issue. So another international framework is necessary to solve the global warming issue, maximum utilizing the advancement of science and technology policy of each country. Okay.
Do you think that we have the processes, the institutions, the methods to achieve that?
At present situation is I'm not satisfied. We should strengthen or construct the global scale scheme agreement among the developing country and developed country, utilizing the innovation of science and technology. So that is the global social innovation we should pursue.
Okay. And then a final question to Dr. Hämäläinen before we open the floor is actually that you talked about then the importance of being among the leading countries in these types of changes, and then you talked about catching up economies. As we know, in several cases, like if we're looking at India or China, they are really catching up economies, but they're growing very fast, and the developments are very quick in there, and in that sense, a thought opens up that since the nature of innovation is changing, that we need is no longer only the technological innovation. It's a much wider set of innovations. You might even say that the systemic characteristics of innovations are becoming stronger and stronger. We need to be innovative in a larger systemic scale rather than only single products and processes. Do you think that change in the nature of innovations is somehow changing the dynamics between leading and catching up economies?
Well, I've been thinking about this same setup from the sustainability perspective, and I've been wondering whether there is a possibility for the developing countries to leapfrog the traditional industrial stage of development. I haven't gotten any final conclusions on that, but I think if we think about the sustainability, particularly the ecological problems that we're facing, the current developmental model is not sustainable if China, India, and all other developing countries follow the path that the old industrial countries have developed. We will have extreme problems with the environment. And I just wonder if the industrial countries could develop a more sustainable model of a society. Could that be adopted by the developing countries as a model, as the industrialized society is a model for them today, which would somehow perhaps be able to solve these environmental challenges that we're facing. But now it seems that we don't have such an alternative, and developing countries are following the path of industrialized countries. But that gives, I think, additional incentives for the social innovators to think about new ways of organizing our societies and economies on a more sustainable basis.
Thank you. And now, for the audience, only one question. Okay, sorry about that.
Discussion.
Anyone?
Chairman,
Yes?
I would like
Could
to
you introduce
thank
yourself, please?
Yeah, I will tell that.
Yeah.
I will thank Mr. Tjuke for the very informative presentation you made. Though I'm putting my question to Mr. Hämäläinen, I understood, please correct me if I misunderstood you, that you saw more or less a parallel between structural change and social innovation. Now my question is, because I'm interested about the wider setting for innovation activities, I'm engaged myself in building regional innovation systems in the regional South Savoy in Finland. I'm the managing director to Regional Council. My name is Hanno Vesa. Do you see that the fairly high wage level of the Western leading economies and the labor union rights are an issue in this respect? Should they be innovated?
Would you clarify your question a little more?
I put the question to Mr. Hämäläinen because I was referring directly to his presentation.
So you basically asked that if the high wage levels and the involvement of labor unions is a problem for the adjustment, or and this is a tough question in Finland. I think I think it all depends. I emphasize the adjustment of the need to adjust structures, organizational arrangements, policies when the society and its environment changes. Now, different stakeholders in this process can either prevent change or facilitate change. And it all depends on which strategies and goals they pursue. So I don't think there's a black and white answer that yes, they hinder change or they promote change. It depends on their stand and their own strategies. And I think even in Finland, labor unions have both promoted change and perhaps sometimes been against some changes which have been proposed. So it all depends on the situation and the issue at stake. But that same applies to all stakeholders. Change always involves losers and those who benefit from change. And those who think they lose from change, they tend to oppose change and vice versa, which is quite natural.
Sorry, but I did not really understand your answer. What would be the innovation that would protect us from losing? Cutting the wage level, limiting the labor union rights, etc.
I think you can, I suggest you continue this discussion over coffee, because we need to wrap up this session. And since there's no time, I'm not going to make any concluding remarks more than just say that social innovation remains to be a somewhat elusive concept that seems to have many definitions and contents for that matter. But it seems to be an important issue that we need to continue the discussion about also in the future. So please enjoy your coffee, but I was also suggested that in order to start the next session in time, would you please take your coffee and come back to this room so that we can start the next session more or less in time. Thank you very much.